All right, so I want you guys to imagine with me for a minute. So you're sitting by somebody, they got their phone out. This is maybe somebody that you know well, you always consider to be pretty intelligent. And they say to you, hey, watch this video. I found this cute video of cats. You start watching the video and immediately recognize that this video is about dogs. It's not about cats. So you say to them, hey, you know these are cats, right? And you find out this person that you thought was pretty intelligent literally can't tell the difference between a cat and a dog. Like, to them, they look exactly the same. Today I want to talk to you about something that is an animal mix-up that is just as egregious, if not more egregious, than mixing up cats and dogs. And that is not being able to tell the difference between a sheep and a goat. Now, you might not think this is very important, but I would like to refer you to the Bible, the book of Matthew, chapter 25. It's talking about the second coming, the final judgment. The Lord's sitting there. He separates the goats from the sheep. He puts the goats on his left-hand side, sheep on his right-hand side. The sheep he invites into his kingdom, and the goats he sends to the eternal fires prepared for the devil and his angels. Knowing the difference between a goat and a sheep is important. It's a big deal. So I want to talk to you about the physical differences between goats and sheep, the personality differences between a goat and a sheep, and the dietary differences between a goat and a sheep. So I'm going to start out with the dietary differences between goats and sheep. The main difference is sheep are considered grazers. That means they like to eat grass, things that grow close to the ground. Goats, on the other hand, like to eat leaves. They're called browsers. This has given goats kind of a bad reputation. People think they'll eat anything, but that's just because the things that goats like to eat are things that we as humans care more about, like rose bushes, strawberry plants, fruit trees. So this is giving goats kind of a bad reputation. As far as the personality differences between a goat and a sheep, it mostly has to do with their herd instinct. They're both herd animals, but sheep get very anxious if they're not with their herd. In fact, they're kind of easy to keep in an enclosure because they're afraid of getting stuck on the wrong side of the fence. So they won't try and go through the fence if the rest of the group is on the other side of the fence. Goats, on the other hand, they kind of like being around other goats, but they will willingly leave other goats. And so they're almost impossible to contain because they're always searching for a way out. They're always trying to get away. Now, as far as the physical differences are just as stark as the personality and dietary differences between goats and sheep. The problem is most of the physical differences that immediately come to mind aren't actually differences between goats and sheep. The majority of people, when you ask them what the difference is between a goat and a sheep, they say, well, sheep have wool and goats have hair. That's not true. There's actually several different breeds of goats that are raised for their wool, and there are many, 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 I would say probably more than half the breeds of sheep that have no wool at all. So it's not a reliable way to tell the difference between goats and sheep. The second thing people generally say is, well, goats have horns and sheep don't. This is also completely false. There are both kinds, sheep that have horns and goats that don't have horns. In fact, there's a kind of sheep that has 4 horns. They don't just have 2, they have actually 4 horns. They do grow different ways. There's kind of a subtle difference in how sheep and goat horns grow, but it's not a very reliable way to be able to tell the difference between goats and sheep. So there is one difference, which is the number of chromosomes that sheep and goats have is actually different. But unless you have like a supernatural ability to be able to glance at an animal and count its chromosomes, that's not useful at all to us in everyday life. Something that is a little more useful is sheep actually have a cleft upper lip. It's kind of like a rabbit, like they can move each side of their face independently. And goats have a solid upper lip like we do. And the problem with this is you have to get really close to a sheep or a goat to be able to tell what kind of lip it has, and you probably don't want to do that. So the most reliable way, and I think probably the easiest way to tell the difference between a goat and a sheep is to look at its tail. Sheep tails will naturally hang down, and a goat tail will naturally stand up. This is the case with all goats and all sheep. If the tail's hanging down, it's a sheep. The tail is standing up, it's a goat. So the next time you're tempted to share a video of some funny talking sheep or something, take a minute, make sure, because your salvation could be at stake.